the deeper conversation, and this has been going on throughout the year too, and in the off season with the NIL and the expansion of the playoff and the transfer portal. These are big. We're seeing big shifts in college football, and I've got a unique perspective because I'm a fan of a team in the group of five, App State, who was in the 1AA level, the FCS level. So I saw a 16-team playoff for the three championships that App State won. I went to those playoff games, and I experienced all that and saw how it works and saw the potential for it. And also saw guys that were playing not necessarily to make it to the NFL. Only a few guys made it to the NFL during that run, and none of them necessarily had a great career. So now Kirk Herbstreit comes out. Now we've got all these bowl games and people not playing in the bowl games and opting out and thinking, all right, going to the next level. And we have so many bowl games. I read earlier, 84 teams were bowl eligible, only 46 weren't. But at the same time, all these bowl games, everybody's watching them. Not everybody, I shouldn't say that. They're getting good enough ratings to keep the bowl games happening year after year. Even though there's not a lot of buzz about the bowl games,
it's still football.
People watching.
It's still football, and people watch football.
Yes. So all this is factoring in, and so it's an ongoing conversation, and it's interesting to hear. You've got your apologists, your college football apologists. You've got your old school college football guys. They don't like the changes. You've got fans that embrace the changes and just love. Okay, whatever college football is, I love it. And as long as we're still tailgating, okay, great. Can I still go to the games? Okay, great. I'm in. So,
and you've got NFL guys like you.
And then I'm more of an NFL guy. So I was disappointed. I thought the playoff was such a letdown. I mean, those games were very weak. I'm glad that I had a nice little board game to play on New Year's Eve. So that's what I was doing.
As you're watching the 16-team playoff for when App State was FCS, is there parity, or is it like the college football playoff where it's the 14 playoffs nice, but really only two teams? Most years there's clearly very top heavy on who has a chance. Beginning of the season, Georgia and Bama, best teams of football. Michigan, great. Do they have a chance against Georgia? Cincinnati, awesome for them. Do they have a chance against Bama? I don't know. But so when you're watching the 16-team playoff for lower level college football teams, is there parity, or is it the same teams every year? Because I haven't followed it. Because if there's actually a handful of teams that have a shot, it's fantastic. But as of now, for Power 5 schools, which outside of Cincinnati are the only schools that make the playoff, there's not even that many teams that have ever made the college football playoff. It's the same teams every year. It's just so top heavy.
Yeah, which I find to be, very disappointing. Now, over the years, North Dakota State, where Carson Wentz went, they won a bunch of championships.
Yeah.
James Madison has been consistent. Montana, Eastern Washington.
Sam Houston's good now.
Yeah, App won 3 in a row. So if you have a good team, you can make a run. But with 16 teams, it opens up the door for possibilities. Like, you still have to prove yourself and win multiple weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And you also just have more teams that are competing in games that matter. And I think that goes back to this whole idea about the bowl and part of the conversation that was being had on College Game Day or whenever they were having that conversation is, well, these are meaningless games. And there are more meaningless games now, whereas the old bowl system, like, those games just had weight. Like, those games mattered. People cared. People wanted to play in them. You grew up, oh man, the idea of playing in the Rose Bowl or the Cotton Bowl or some of those more historic ones did carry weight, and we've lost some of that luster because now people, if it's playoff or bust, and there are only 4 teams that make it, and really only 5 or 6 teams that ever make it. Which is just discouraging to the rest of college football. And so then it leaves everybody else just kind of like, wait, well, what are we playing for? And then it goes, oh, well, we have to love football. Okay, that's fine. And and I think we understand that and respect that. Like, yeah, oh yeah, these guys, they still love football, but you want to play for things that matter. Like,
So yes, I, I think you brought up a great point earlier. At the FCS level, there's less players getting drafted. The majority, it seems like. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of players still dream of playing at the next level, but it's probably more similar to high school. Think your last high school game, you
yep,
want to play. I want to be with my teammates. This is a forever memory. My last game with my team. The same, like the Ole Miss quarterback, Matt Corral, before he got injured, he could have sat out, but for him, his mentality, this is the last game. All my experiences at Ole Miss, last game with my teammates. So you get more of that at the FCS level. The college football playoff has so devalued bowl games. Before the playoff, yeah, you make a New Year's Six bowl, I'm all in. Even if I'm not competing for a national championship, by all means, I want to try to win the Sugar Bowl or the Orange Bowl. But
yeah,
now it's so devalued, and at big schools, there's a lot more players that are going to the next level. More players sit out, but there's still plenty of players on these teams that aren't going to play in the NFL, aren't trying to, and this game means everything to them. It's their last time with their team. But when you get to bigger schools, there's even more players to where it's meaningless to them. They're still playing football after this game. They're going to the NFL. They're a draft prospect. So it's more diversity in if it's meaningless or meaningful. So I don't know, if you're a player and you're all in on your bowl game that for a teammate of yours is completely meaningless because it's not a college football playoff, how disappointing. How disappointing. You're trying to win this game, but you have teammates who are sitting out, which the teammates that are sitting out, it's hard for me to argue against that because if you're trying to protect your body, I mean, that's a reasonable argument. I think if Jalen Smith for the Cowboys destroyed his career playing in a bowl game for Notre Dame, destroyed his career. That's a very reasonable argument. Even if personally I would play in the game, I wouldn't be a player to sit out. I don't think it's unreasonable to sit out if you're a premier prospect and you're playing in the Outback Bowl.
yeah, you do yeah, to me, there is an understanding of it, but it's fair. Like, I think maybe Herb Street and those guys went maybe a little too far in questioning guys. You sound like the old guy, get off my lawn guy. So I'm younger than they are. Um, but I do think we've always been selfish people. That's our sinful nature. But
Certainly.
we are getting into more and more of a me culture. Like, there's just no denying it with social media and this next generation that's all they've ever known.
Social media.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's it. So that absolutely infiltrates the mentality of these guys and how they're making their decisions on whether they're gonna play in a meaningless bowl game or, "No, we started something as a team, and we're gonna finish it, even if that just means we're gonna win
Yes,
this bowl game on December 19th. I had a commitment to my teammates. I'm going to go do that. That doesn't outweigh, well, I want what's best for me and my future. And listen, I get it. I understand it, of course. But it's just a different mentality and philosophy. And maybe it wasn't always that way. Um, and again, because those bowl games carried more weight too, it made it easier for guys to justify, yeah, I'm going to suit up for this Cotton Bowl game versus sitting out to, my draft stock is ready to go, or I'll go prove it during the combine.
exactly. So, I mean, there's implications too, because where do you draw the line for sitting out games? I mean, if you're the A&M starting quarterback, do you sit out for the Prairie View A&M game? Do you for Alabama? If you're one of the best players, do you sit out for the Alcorn State game? Oh, it's meaningless. We're going to win anyway. So, I mean, that's possibly
Here's
the
slope.
next
Yeah.
logical step to go. And then
Yep.
I've heard some people comparing it to the Pro Bowl. People don't take the Pro Bowl seriously in the NFL. I just don't think that's a comparison. That was never a game necessarily. It's always like people
Yeah.
playing in the Super Bowl don't play in that game, of course. But again, there's just at the college level, there's so many players on these teams. They're giving their all for this game. This is the last football they'll ever play. I don't know. I err on the side you got to play. You should play. But again, it's not an unreasonable argument to sit out. It's just so difficult. It's really difficult.
And I do love this topic of, do you love football because you love football, or do you love what football gives you? And that's interesting. And I think there's a lot to unpack there,
I
and
think
there's
the
probably
answer is
some spiritual
yes.
aspects to that too. So
That
anyway,
that is a great question, man.
yeah. So I forget who was talking about that. I can't. I heard that somewhere along the way. But anyway, that's a big topic. We'd be curious your thoughts as you're listening now. So it's fascinating. The state of college football is very interesting. People still love it. We're still going to watch our teams. App lost our bowl game. It was devastating. But then it wasn't, because then it's like, oh wait, okay, it's a bowl game. I want to win.
Meaningless.
I'm more concerned about winning the Sun Belt and winning whatever games we play against the big teams. Those are the games that I like to win.
Yeah.
Like we beat South Carolina, North Carolina a couple years ago. Was it last year? 2 years ago.